You can see officers entering into DePeña's home, surrounding the neighborhood. Neighbors that we talked to say that this happened at about 6 o'clock in the morning and involved multiple unmarked cars. We did knock on the mayor's door to see if anyone was home and noticed significant damage to that front door. We're not sure at this moment if that is from law enforcement entering his home. One neighbor that we spoke to says she was shocked to hear that Mayor DePeña was arrested, but that she had seen an increased law enforcement presence in the neighborhood lately.
Today on California Reports, FBI agents outside a house in Lawrence, Massachusetts, with a bullhorn, telling the man inside there's a warrant for his arrest. That man is the sitting mayor. And what happens next pulls back the curtain on where more than $1.5 million in pandemic relief money actually went.
The city eventually hired Daniel Bennett, the state's former public safety secretary, to conduct an independent investigation. But when it came time for Bennett to interview Castro about the allegations last October, he didn't show up. The next day, this email shows a senior advisor to the mayor instructed Bennett to halt any investigation. Meantime, the personnel director who had ordered Castro to be interviewed was no longer at City Hall.
Federal prosecutors say Brian DePeña took money that was supposed to keep a small business alive during COVID and used it to keep himself in power. DePeña isn't some outsider who stumbled into Lawrence politics. He served on the city council from 2016 to 2021, then won the mayor's race that same year. 4 years later, in 2025, the city re-elected him. Twice, the people of Lawrence put their trust in him. On Friday morning, that trust became the subject of a federal criminal complaint.
Mayor DePeña acknowledged that in the past, prior mayoral administrations in Lawrence did not want to go above and beyond to engage on this issue.
Another administration don't move the conversation to cross the line, because if the city of Lawrence or Massachusetts state keep in this side and only see the problem in Massachusetts or see the problem in New Hampshire, nothing changed.
Here's where it starts. During COVID, the Small Business Administration handed out economic injury disaster loans, EIDLs, to companies hurt by the pandemic, low interest, fast approval. But the rules were strict. The money could only be used as working capital to help the business survive. Not campaigns, not personal debt, not mortgages.
Administrators said Delta is, of course, weighing on some small businesses as those businesses look to get back to normal. That's something we've seen in our own recent polling as well. Take a listen.
There's optimism broadly, but still some concerns, especially with the Delta variant, that there are uncertainties on the horizon that could limit their recovery and resuming of revenues, which is why we've been so focused on trying to continue to get out billions of dollars in relief to our small businesses and position the SBA to be part of their team to support them.
DePeña owned a tire and auto shop in Lawrence called Tenares Tire Services. In May 2020, the business was approved for $150,000. It came through weeks later. But by early 2021, prosecutors say DePeña had a much bigger problem. He'd bought a commercial property on Broadway in Lawrence for $700,000. He owed roughly $900,000 to two private lenders at brutal interest rates. And according to court records, he wrote to his financial advisor in a panic, "Brother, call me. I'm in trouble. I'm in your hands."
Commit. She is live outside the federal courthouse in South Boston for us tonight. Penny?
Ken, David, these are some pretty serious felony charges. Brian DePeña could face up to 30 years in federal prison if he ends up being convicted. Now, he only spent about 10 minutes inside of the courtroom, but what happened outside turned pretty chaotic.
So he went back to the loan program. The SBA approved a modification, bringing Tenares Tire's EIDL to $500,000. Then in October 2021, another modification over $1.15 million more. All told, DePeña's business received more than $1.6 million in emergency pandemic funding.
City Councilor Wendy Luzone during a recent discussion about the controversy.
So Castro was asked to appear on the 9th. He was sent a letter on the 2nd. And between those days, we lost a director here at City Hall.
I believe that is correct.
Okay. What a coincidence, huh? Just for the record, what a coincidence that we lost a great employee.
Here's the contradiction at the center of this case. That money was supposed to save a struggling small business. Prosecutors say it didn't stay there. In August 2021, they alleged DePeña used $85,000 of the loan money to pay off his own back taxes to the IRS. The next month, September 2021, they say $90,000 of it went straight into his campaign account. his campaign for mayor. When the state's campaign finance office asked where that money came from, prosecutors say DePeña reported it as a personal loan to his own campaign, not a federal disaster loan for his business, a loan from himself.
Ya éramos una campaña, ahora vamos a hacer un gobierno que va a ser inclusivo, no exclusivo de ninguna nacionalidad. Y una de las cualidades que siempre he dicho es que es la primera vez en la historia de la ciudad de Londres que la ciudad de Londres va a ser gobernada por una mentalidad empresarial, porque yo no soy un político de carrera, lo que soy un empresario de carrera.
He won that election. And then prosecutors allege the spending kept going. In December 2021, weeks after taking office as mayor, DePeña used loan proceeds to pay $883,293 toward those high-interest private mortgages.
He then allegedly wrote tens of thousands of dollars in checks to his campaign account, which had been overdrawn, and purchased nearly $900,000 in treasurer's checks to pay off his high-interest loans. By August 2026, DePeña had only made 16 payments on the EIDLs, with the outstanding principal totaling over $1.6 million.
So where does that leave the loan today? According to the complaint, as of this month, DePeña has made just 16 payments on the Tenares Tire loan, totaling around $130,000, and every dollar of it went to interest. He still owes $1.65 million. Federal prosecutors have charged him with 1 count of wire fraud and 1 count of money laundering. U.S. Attorney Leah Foley put it bluntly. DePeña was trusted to lead his city, and in her words, he betrayed that trust. The FBI's Ted Dox was just as direct. This money was meant to be a safety net, he said, not, quote, Mr. DePeña's own personal ATM.
The FBI agents came in and started with the bullhorn saying, you know, Brian DePeña, there's a warrant for your arrest. Please come out. Please come out. He showed up, and then they put him in cuffs, and then they allowed him to put on a shirt, and then they took him into custody. He's my neighbor, you know, besides being the mayor, but he's a great neighbor, and I'm sure he has an attorney that will, you know, look into that, what his books look like. But wow, you know, it's a pretty strong accusation. He has to prove it, but as a person, you know, he's a great person.
DePeña was arrested at his home Friday morning. A neighbor described FBI agents on a bullhorn calling him out by name before taking him into custody. Hours later, he stood in federal court in Boston. He was released without bond, but the conditions were strict. Surrender his passport, stay in Massachusetts, no new loans without government approval. Outside the courthouse, his attorney was asked if the mayor plans to resign. The answer, no. He's, quote, done a great job in Lawrence. The attorney also pushed back on the case itself, telling reporters the treatment felt unfair. DePeña has pleaded not guilty. Nothing here has been proven in court.
Ken, David, these are some pretty serious felony charges. Brian DePeña could face up to 30 years in federal prison if he ends up being convicted. Now, he only spent about 10 minutes inside of the courtroom, but what happened outside turned pretty chaotic. Anything to say to the people of Lawrence?
Adiós, mi gente. Dios le bendiga.
Goodbye, my people. God bless you. That's what Lawrence's Mayor Brian DePeña had to say after being charged with wire fraud and money laundering.
Do you plan to resign, sir?
But this isn't happening in a vacuum. Earlier this year, DePeña's office was already under state investigation, accused of secretly recording conversations inside City Hall, an allegation serious enough that state police executed a search warrant on his own office. Add a former chief of staff convicted on unrelated charges, and a city councilor who pleaded guilty to voter fraud, and you start to see why some in Lawrence say this arrest feels less like a shock and more like a pattern. For the people who voted for him twice, the sting isn't just political, it's personal. One resident put it simply, it doesn't shock her anymore.
Yeah, David and Ken, that's right. Good evening. Earlier this morning, federal agents swarmed DePeña's home just behind me here in Lawrence, and neighbors along this street tell me it was a shocking way to wake up. Federal agents swarmed the home of Lawrence Mayor Brian DePeña, with cameras capturing the moment they moved in.
It doesn't shock me. It doesn't come really as a surprise. There was some speculation about his honesty and all, and corruption has gone down through the city and over the years.
DePeña's neighbor Charlotte Bluen tells me she was shocked to hear the news of the arrest.
I wish things would go back to the way they were, where everybody really cared about everybody else, but it doesn't seem to be happening. Yeah. It's just too bad. It's too bad.
So the question isn't just where DePeña's case goes next, even though it will through arraignment, through discovery, eventually through trial or a plea. The bigger question is this: when a national emergency creates a river of fast, trusting money for struggling business owners who's actually watching where it goes once it reaches someone with power, if you want to follow what happens next in this case, subscribe to California Reports.